So summer is over, but we've got the fall to look forward to. So IGN's Terry Schwartz and Jim Vejvoda and I got together, talked about the movies that we're excited about coming up. Obviously, there are a ton of movies that we're excited about, but we only got a chance to talk about 5 of them. We talked for a while, so let's just dive right into it. Here are some of the movies that we are most excited to see in the fall of 2018. So the bad news is summer is over.
The worst news is you're spending it with us right here.
Spent my summer here. But fall's coming up. Fall always has some great movies. And what movies are we excited about coming up for the rest of the year?
Nothing.
I mean,
Nothing at all?
I will say, all the big summer movies came out basically in the spring. You know what I mean? Between Infinity War and Black Panther. So the summer had traditional blockbusters, but no movie that I was so in love with. So I'm ready for us to get into the fall season. I will say the movie I'm most excited about was not what I was expecting, and it's simply because I love the trailer so much it gives me chills to this day, is Bad Times at the El Royale. I think that movie looks bonkers bananas. I love Cabin in the Woods. Drew Goddard is great. I'm excited that he is getting back to sort of making something that is very unique and distinct to him and feels like it has his style. It feels a little Tarantino too. But I genuinely have no idea what that movie is other than the perfect amalgamation of a great cast and a really interesting premise and a great sort of aesthetic and tone, at least in what the trailer was promising.
Yeah, just from a purely, like you said, aesthetic point of view, this trailer is full of just really saturated colors and rain, and that mid-century architecture even it just looks so cool on camera.
I'm dusting off some film school words here, but the use of diegetic to non-diegetic sound in it, and the way they pull, the way she's running down the front of the hotel, and it's how they're snapping all the names popping up, and then that goes in, her singing, but then that's also the music that they're using for the trailer. It's
just one of those movies that's oh, that movie's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's got the talent behind it to actually be a full and complete, really cool movie.
I love movie trailers. But there's an art to having a really compelling trailer that doesn't give away everything. And I love this trailer because it's really compelling. And I genuinely, what is the plot of this movie other than a priest shows up at a hotel that is split, sort of between these two states? And
turns out not a priest at all.
Not a priest, and nothing is what it
just Jeff Bridges.
It's literally just Jeff Bridges playing Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges as himself, pretending to be a priest.
Pretending to be a priest.
I'm not really a priest.
Yeah. No shit.
Since we're talking about sort of interesting aesthetics and that sort of approach, I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I'm curious about. I like what I've seen from it so far, and I have seen probably more footage that's out there just by virtue of going to different conventions and stuff like that. I like that they're trying something different and that there is an animated Spider-Man movie that's kind of separate from all these different live-action attempts that we've had. And I like that it's Miles Morales and all these other Spider-Gwen and Spider-Ham, my generation Spider-Man.
Voiced by John Mulaney.
So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. I hope it's as funny as it promises to be, but it also looks, very heartfelt too. It's not going to be all gags. So I like that. I like that it's Jake Johnson has described his Peter Parker as kind of a Spider-Man that kind of forgot how fun and how cool it was to be Spider-Man. And so I like that. I like that we're getting something different from it.
And again, the animation style is it's different. You don't see much animation like that, mainstream anyway.
Very divisive though.
That's what I was going to say. It's very divisive. I think it is awesome because I think so often, you think of what Ang Lee tried to do with his Hulk, and maybe it didn't quite work, but you're bringing in that comic book aesthetic to the feel of the movie, and so many versions of animated superhero, whatever comics adaptations are very just traditional animation, and I like that this one feels like it's trying to do something a bit different and a bit more dynamic, pulling in the pop pow.
Yeah,
and especially with Spider-Man, the last 20 years for Spider-Man has been just one restart after another, and treading a lot of the same ground. So why not try something completely
and also
different?
too the fact that even in live action, whenever we do see Spider-Man in action, he looks animated. So to actually do just a straight animated Spider-Man movie is kind of an interesting approach. I do think it opens the door to them to kind of explore all these other characters that we may or may not ever get in live action, and try some new things and bring in even some of the villains that we think might be in there, could be it's interesting to see them show up. So I can't say any more because I don't know how much of that is out there. So I don't want to give anything away that I saw in some embargoed thing.
Yeah.
So
I'll show
sorry
you
about
the
that.
edit of this beforehand. You can double check
okay.
and make sure we're not saying anything.
Yeah.
But you're going to
Out
keep
of
this
school.
in the actual
Oh, it's all
cut.
staying.
Yeah.
I just want to know if you're going to get in trouble.
We're
before
gonna-
the
yeah,
video.
Yeah, we're leaving.
Time to swing, just like I taught you.
When did you teach me that?
I didn't. It's a little joke for team building.
But to shift gears completely, one of the movies that I'm most excited about is Suspiria. which
Another
is
great trailer.
Another, yeah.
And all these trailers came out like the same week of each other, too.
I know. And then we decided to do a video about trailers we're excited about. Go figure. But Suspiria is, obviously it's a remake of Dario Argento's film from back in the 70s. Luca Guadagnino, he did Call Me By Your Name last year, and then Suspiria could not be a more different type of movie, right? And what makes me excited about that, not only do I like all of his films, but as far as remakes go, it looks like he's really putting a different twist on the story and his own sort of stamp on the story. It's not just going to be a remake for the sake of he's like, here's a title you guys recognize, we're going to do it again. Like, it looks like it's going to be a very different story.
Which is refreshing for horror remakes. That was a tougher thing to say than I thought. But so often they're so derivative and just sort of, are just either a name only or just a really bad version of this thing that you knew and liked. And so yeah, that they did get a filmmaker of note and a filmmaker of tastes to do this is a good start, because if this were, the Rob Zombie Suspiria, I don't think we'd be talking about this right now. I'm sorry, Rob Zombie, I'm just saying.
Call Me By Your Name obviously isn't going to be a good comp, but A Bigger Splash, the film that he did prior to that, has some really great tone and sort of eeriness.
Yeah, the way he sort of delivers his the atmosphere of his movies and the thought that clearly goes into the cinematography and everything else. I'm really excited about that. So I actually have never seen the original Suspiria. I am a huge baby when it comes to horror movies. So I watched this trailer and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this selling? This looks incredible. Went back and tried to watch a trailer for the first one that ended up, it was 10 minutes long. It basically was the whole movie, and I was like,
They don't cut trailers like they used to.
but I was like, this is not what I thought this movie was selling. And I'm curious if this version of Suspiria is going to have more of a subtle touch with the supernatural aspect of it, and have it be a little bit more Black Swan in a way that it's what is real, what is
I
not.
think it's going to have to be. I mean, with the director that's making it, I would imagine it would have to be. But the other thing is, I don't think the original Suspiria is required viewing to fully enjoy this new one, which is, as far as remakes go, which is a very exciting thing. And apparently they showed footage. What was the convention that they showed footage of? And people were throwing up and passing out.
Oh, CinemaCon maybe?
I think it was CinemaCon earlier this year.
Wow.
Apparently it is.
You make the
gnarly.
theater owners throw up. That's
Yeah.
probably not good for your business.
There's more in that building than what you can see, Doctor.
You are living with dangerous people.
Okay, well, completely jumping gears again. I'm going
Please do.
all fangirl a bit. So I was looking, I realized a lot of movies that I'm really excited about, like Wonder Woman 1984 and stuff, for next year. So looking at the rest of this year, Fantastic Beasts, I didn't expect going into this year that I would be excited about another Fantastic Beasts movie, because I really, as someone who really loves Harry Potter, I have a Deathly Hallows tattoo, I really love Harry Potter. The first one just did not do it for me. I didn't really find myself compelled by Newt as a character and the new characters who were brought in. I didn't really care about the Beasts. It wasn't what I loved about Harry Potter and sort of the magic, pun not intended, of those films. So again, going into this year, did not think that I would care about this movie, but the fact that they are leaning so heavily into the really interesting aspects of the Harry Potter past, the history of it, and specifically this movie seems to be leaning so heavily on the Dumbledore and Grindelwald dynamic. It is Crimes of Grindelwald after all. I'm really excited to see some of that stuff come to light, because it's the same thing for Game of Thrones to me, that I love sort of the history of the world that led us to the point in the series that we're currently exploring. And so the opportunity to really mine that rich history and political intrigue and everything that went into sort of the big conflict that this series is building up to between Dumbledore and Grindelwald is intentionally not what J.K. Rowling wanted people to know they were selling in the first movie, but they're leaning so hard on it in this one, even like bringing Nicholas Flamel in. I'm really excited, and I hope it doesn't disappoint me again. I hope that it pays
a lot of
that
names
off.
from the appendices of the
Exactly.
Harry Potter
I think
novels.
the casting in this movie has me a little more intrigued. I haven't read the Harry Potter books. I saw all the movies, including Fantastic Beasts, which almost made me never want to see another Harry Potter movie again. I just thought it was very dull. It didn't do much for me. But Dumbledore, we're going to see him younger, bearded, and before he turns into like a hippie with that genie hat and all that jazz, he's wearing like
You mean
suits
a
and
wizard?
stuff. Yes, that thing. No, Michael Gambon's look and Richard Harris's look and everything like that. The Dumbledore in this movie is like, he's very professorial. He's got a beard.
I mean,
and
he's
like,
literally a professor.
He's literally-
Yeah.
He's not
a
headmaster. Yeah.
yeah.
We will continue this after this show. We will. I'm not
just
letting you
saying,
off the hook.
He
But
stole somebody's curtains and they want them back.
I will say.
You're monologuing, Jim.
I will say, no, I'm with you guys. The first Fantastic Beast was big old nothing, and I'm a big Harry Potter fan too. So the fact that it was kind of just didn't move the needle at all was even more of a disappointment. And it also felt like all of the other backstory stuff was tacked on. Like all of the
Yes.
Grindelwald stuff was very sort of they threw that in midstream. Whereas the one thing that this movie has going for it, I think, is that they're intending to deal with all of that storyline from the jump. So it might be a cleaner, more cohesive kind of film. It very well might feel like two different movies fighting each other in front of you.
Well,
Which-
like the greatest wizard showdown before Voldemort and Harry Potter, we'll see if that battle can be won with a successful outcome.
Indeed, we shall.
That's an unusual one. What Mr. Scamander fears above everything else is...
Having to work in an office, sir.
Oddly enough, just like you can't believe you were excited to see Fantastic Beasts 2, I kind of can't believe I'm actually really curious to see a Transformers movie. I haven't liked that series in ages. And
for me.
Bumblebee looks good. I can't believe I'm saying that.
That's
like,
how low our standards are.
well, yeah, I'm kind of like, I mean, even going to good, like it looks really okay to maybe really good. Like it's somewhere in there. Like it looks like just from those clips and the trailers that we've seen, and I don't believe they've actually released the footage that was shown at Comic-Con. That stuff has more kind of heart and kind of soul to it than any of the Michael Bay stuff has, at least since parts of the first movie. So I'm curious to see sort of what I think it's Travis Knight, right?
Travis Knight, yeah.
Is
And he's, I
what
think,
he
the-
brings to this, because having worked at Leica and working with the fantastical, but also the tactile too. Like that's the thing that struck me watching the Bumblebee footage, is that even though that is CG, there's something, he has found a way to make it feel real.
He is the reason to be interested in Bumblebee at all, frankly.
John Cena.
No, look, John Cena's not the reason, because John Cena is going to John Cena somewhere else,
Right.
if not on Bumblebee. He'll be fine. We're
Yeah.
going to get our John Cena. No, Travis Knight, I mean, coming off of directing Kubo and the Two Strings, and coming from that world of Leica that is just all like really warm, full of heart and fun, like building those worlds, and then coming to bringing that energy to, sort of a smaller corner of the Transformers
From
film.
what they've shown so far, like this one, you really do get a sense of like that there's even like life behind the eyes in Bumblebee, which is nice. And then
Well, and it
also
makes
the
total
80s
sense
stuff
coming-
of it all too could be fun and cute.
It makes total sense coming from a guy who is literally made his bones doing stop motion and
Right.
putting
Yeah.
life behind the eyes of little clay. Or the fact that a Leica guy is making a Transformers movie, I'm like, all right,
Makes
I'll
sense.
come back to that.
Try this.
So obviously there are a ton of movies to be excited about coming out this fall. These were just a few of the ones that we're looking forward to. Let me know in the comments which one you are looking forward to the most. And as always, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time here on CineFix.